progress.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
What is up, everybody? It is the Georgia Show. It's Wednesday night. Only a couple, 2 or 3 more sleeps before Georgia takes on Florida, and we're going to talk a lot about that tonight, Georgia's injury situation. We're going to talk about the Georgia angle from the Michigan sign stealing thing. Listen, we're not here to dig into Michigan or anything like that. Whatever. You think it's cheating, you think it's cheating. If you don't, you don't. Got my opinion on that. My opinion doesn't matter. We're going to do some chopping wood. It's chopping wood Wednesdays, and that's what we're going to do. Obviously, we got some partners to talk about a little bit later on in the show as well. Palmer is tying a lasso over there of some sort. Palmer's trying to lasso a goat. Rusty, we've had a ton of coverage this week on Georgia's injury situation. I have a hard time believing anybody else has surrounded it better than we have. Of the Georgia guys that they have a chance to get back to full speed this week, who do you think's, is it obvious the most important one, or is it kind of a situation where, I kind of bounce back and forth on this myself.
To me, it's Ladarius Mims, and it's just because he's such a long, freaky athlete, and when he's gone this year, Georgia fans will be at, like we talk about Darnell Washington, it's just not easy to replace those types. So you look at Ladarius Mims, and I do believe this will be it for him as he finishes out whatever the result of this season is. He'll go on and likely be a first rounder. I mean, athletically, he's going to do well in testing and then those types of things. Is he polished? He's got ways to go, but he's still a freaky athlete, and the ability to bend in that 6'7.5" frame is not easy to find. So to me, it's Ladarius Mims, and having protection, have a quarterback. When you got a quarterback that knows, look, man, this guy's been in the battles. He knows what to expect. He's played in Jacksonville. He's just really, lack of a better term, he's a damn dancing bear, man. And it's hard to get around those type of players. And he and Tate Rage kind of have that bond over on that right side. And look, everybody thought Ladarius Mims was going to move to right to left tackle, and he's just comfortable over there. And I think Tate Rage and Carson Beck and everybody will feel a lot better in that huddle if 65 is there. And that's going to be the main thing that we look at for me on Saturday during warmups.
And listen, if you want to know the specifics of what went on with him in Tuesday's practice, come on over to DawgsHQ. You can save 50% off a year-long subscription. You can get 1 month for $1, one or the other, and we'd love to have you. But here's my thinking on this, Rusty, is that, all right, you got Ladarius Mims. 20 snaps, probably. If you get on the good end, 2025, maybe. That's my only concern right there.
Well, I mean, he's 6 weeks post surgery, and that's supposedly enough. Look, if they have 75 snaps, I would say he goes 40, 45. I would think, and see how it goes. But this is an important game, man. It's go time. So. I don't know how much you limit him unless he says I can't do it, because you got time to, it's not like he's running pass routes. His cardio doesn't have to exactly be there as much as you would on the outside, but the physicality and his trust in that ankle and those types of things. So I would say more than 25. If he starts snap one Saturday, I think he gives you 40 at minimum.
Is your gut feeling that he's the starter?
Yeah, that's my gut. Maybe. Listen, this is you got to get him work in, but you got to see. Here's a couple things. If you go off Jake's practice notes, don't want to give too much of that away, but if you get some spotty reps here and there, you want to see how his ankle looks the next day. And if you get him reps, today, which we'll find out, I'm sure Jake will have notes on DawgsHQ later tonight or the Thursday morning, which I think will be key as in how is his ankle responding, and that's going to tell the tale going into the weekend. So there's little boxes that you check, and that's getting practice reps, getting cardio. He did some movement. Even Kirby said did some movement. What Kirby used a quote, pushed him pretty hard. Is that was a quote? He
pushed really hard. Yeah.
Push really hard, and that kind of tells you they're kind of saying, hey, look, we need a game simulation out of you. What can we get out of you? Then you want to see this morning how his ankle is, and you want to see tomorrow because the hay's kind of in the barn. As of tonight, the hay is kind of in the barn, so we'll see where he goes, this weekend. But it's going to be one of those deals. You just kind of see how things go. But it's 6 weeks out, and looking forward to State of 65 is a go Saturday. If I'm guessing, I say he plays.
Yeah. So we talked to Tate Rage tonight, and it was interesting to hear from him about all three of those guys that they've had in at right tackle. Mims, obviously, Truss, obviously, and then Monroe Freeling, who stepped in versus Vanderbilt, and the chemistry that he has at right guard with whoever it is that's lined up next to him. Like you said, Rusty, those two have taken a lot of snaps next to each other, and Truss has been in there some, and obviously been around the program long.
Yep.
And so those two have a good sense of connection. And so, with those two guys, Mims and Truss, and, whoever it is that's working with Ratledge, there's a lot less communication that has to happen. They get it. They know how to work together. Versus he said with Monroe, when he stepped in versus Vanderbilt, it was a lot of helping him out and stuff. And so that I'd probably agree with you that it would be biggest to get, one of those guys back, Mims, who you have as your number one guy, potential probable first round pick there, or having Truss in there who you've felt pretty comfortable with over the last couple of weeks, as opposed to Monroe Freeling, a freshman stepping into a game like this with the magnitude of this, the atmosphere of this, the environment of this game. That would be a big, tall ask of him, because for as good as he played against Vanderbilt, it was Vanderbilt. And so, I probably agree with you. In order to be a little bit different, I'll say getting Kendall Milton back to full speed, and hell, I'd throw Roderick Robinson in there as well. Not 100% certain that we'll see him this weekend, as he continues to come back from that ankle injury as well. But I think that having those running backs and having that run game as an option without Brock Bowers as an option is certainly going to be big. And, having a veteran player like Milton, who's played in this game before, that would be big as well.
Another one, that we were reported on is Lad McConkey. And listen, Lad's been back for a few weeks. Lad was always was never really a doubt in our mind if whether he was going to play in this game or not. But one of the notes we had yesterday is the fact that, Lad has kind of been unlimited for a few practices here lately. And that is music to Brian McClendon and Mike Bobo and Carson Beck and Kirby Smart's ears. That's what they want. And ultimately, again, one of the things I talked about with the whole Bowers thing, right, is knowing everything that the timing of, all right, you get Lad back at kind of full strength, plus the bye week, get him in a little bit of shape. You lose Bowers. There may not have been a better time if you had to lose Bowers for 4 or 5 weeks this season, 3 to 5 weeks, 3 to 6, whatever it is, than right now. Simply because, the schedule sets up poorly, but you couldn't afford to have done without Bowers, there for a while whenever, Lad was completely out or very limited, I don't think. And obviously you got Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas, who have also come a long way, within the offense since that point. Kind of moving on here a little bit, talking about this rivalry, right? How we know the history of it, and some weird things have happened down in Florida. But Rusty, as you've had a chance to kind of learn a little bit more about Florida this week, is there anything standing out to you that Georgia should be able to do, might be able to do? Is there anything standing out to you about that?
I think run the football. And Jake, I think you were one that touched on that kind of first. I went back and looked at some stats and really looked really looked at the South Carolina game. South Carolina almost averaged 5 yards a carry against them. And, that's one of those things you kind of look at. And then we obviously know what Kentucky did to them. So, can Georgia kind of do that? Because Georgia has a better offensive line than South Carolina and Kentucky. And if they get Mims back, and if they don't get Mims back, they still got some depth there. Let me make one comment. I don't want to derail the subject. This is something Jake and Palmer tuck away. What about the invaluable reps this year for Micah Morris, Dylan Fairchild, and now Monroe Freeland? Yeah. Because we got an entire offseason to talk about some things. But Georgia opens up with Clemson next year, and they possibly could be replacing 4 starters on the offensive line. And you look at the invaluable in-game reps with those kids, and those guys are playing like Micah and Dylan Fairchild are playing real reps. Monroe Freeland got thrown into the mix, and for everything that we talked, everybody we've talked to, that he graded out pretty good. So
and Jared Wilson got thrown into the mix at one point this year as well.
So really want to just kind of tuck that one away, but that's one note. But you start talking about an offensive line and Dejan Edwards and what he's doing, and then talk about Palmer's. Can they get Kendall Milton back? What kind of package? Here's the thing too, guys, that we really haven't talked about. You have this 2-week practice period, and then you look at Georgia offensively with Bowers. So they got to do some different things. We're not going to beat around the bush, but what package do they unwrinkle this weekend? What does Florida show you? Because you have time now to get something together there and say, we're going to do this. You look at Dylan Bell. Does he get more carries this weekend at straight up tailback? I mean, you got to use all your weapons this weekend and try to get. There's going to be targets, and there's going to be carries left with Bowers out of the game there. So I'm interested to see what wrinkle Georgia does with their offense. Not only minus Brock Bowers, but what do they work on in 2 weeks? So with those type of situations, you look. But the main basic thing for me is I think Georgia can run the football, and I think Florida at times has been really susceptible to not being able to stop the football, not be able to stop the run.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that's the drum I've kind of – you never know coming out of the bye week. We've seen Rusty, you remember 2012 and Sean Williams, we're soft. Georgia comes out and looks like a completely different defense for that week and does some, things extremely, well, wins a defensive struggle after not playing a whole lot of great defense. So we've seen some teams turn it around, but – Florida not running it great right now, not stopping the run great right now. I know everybody's blowing up this whole 2-game stretch of beating Vanderbilt and South Carolina. I don't know about that. On one hand, those are big wins for Florida. I get it. You're trying to build this thing back up, and I
Georgia had. Let's be fair. Now, Georgia had trouble with both of those teams. Georgia was down
at times, yeah, for sure.
You gotta
Georgia also just got up and left both of those teams at different points. They just kind of, and listen, it's kind of shows you where they're at, right? Like people were disappointed with a 10-point win against South Carolina. They were disappointed with a 17-point win at Vanderbilt, even though they gave them a touchdown late. Well, people are fired up about Florida getting, good wins over those teams. So, it's tricky. It really is tricky. And this is a rivalry game, 14.5 points. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Palmer, let's do some prize picks.
Yeah, let's do a little bit of prize picks.
All right. What are my options here? What are we looking at?
All right. So, excuse me here. So we told y'all that we weren't going to do any, non-Georgia picks anymore, and the slate for this week's games is not quite up yet. But looking ahead at the NFL, we've got some Georgia players that we can take a look at over on Prize Picks. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Pick, a couple of options, players. They've got passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, all the different stat categories you could ask for. Pick a player, choose whether they go more or less than the line that's set for them. So ours that we're going to look at.
I'm sitting here looking at these, Palmer. I'll be honest with you. The only name I know is Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, from the college football stuff. So we're going with an NFL one, a Georgia Florida themed NFL one. DeAndre Swift, 63.5 rushing yards against the Washington Commanders. I think that we all like
defensive front.
Yeah, it is a salty defensive front.
And
y'all want less there?
I don't know if y'all saw Jonathan Allen's post this past week. I mean, Jonathan Allen's interview this past week. He was none too happy.
Where's that game at?
It is in Philadelphia. That's going to be a fired up fan base with the Phillies going out.
I'd take over. I think Swift's got enough. Swift can big chunk play you for 25.
Yeah.
And then grind out another 50.
Yeah.
Himself. So I'll take that.
So we'll go more on 63.5 for him. Got to have a quarterback in here, and Matthew Stafford is the only option for Georgia. 257.5 against Dallas.
I'm gonna take the under because I think they're gonna have a hard time keeping him upright.
Yeah, I'll take the under.
All right. We will go with. I'll give you guys a choice here for receiving yards. We either go with James Cook 17.5 on Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or George Pickens 53.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Believe that game is going to be overseas that is going to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Let's go with that James Cook pick.
I'll take James Cook. I mean, that's like one good screenplay, right?
Yeah.
So
we'll go over 17.
I would take over both if I had to, but I would wouldn't have bet.
Well, and you could and juice your entry to win, and then to get a little bit of a Florida taste in here as well, while keeping it still local to the Georgia folks. Kyle Pitts going up against a tough Tennessee Titans defense in Nashville, 34.5 receiving yards.
Like Nick Delatorre told me earlier this week, the best defense that he's ever seen against Kyle Pitts is Arthur Smith. So that's Hey, I tell you what though, Palmer, I don't know if you picked up on this. Did you hear that little bit of excitement in Rusty's voice when we started doing these prize picks? I'm worried. Rusty might end up losing his house over this.
Yeah.
He's going to get sucked into these prize picks.
Good news. Good news. They'll match Rusty's first deposit up to $100 with promo code DAWGS. That is DAWGS, promo code DAWGS. We'll put in less for Kyle Pitts. 20 to win 100, and we are in. We will keep you all up to date on how that Georgia Florida NFL prize picks parlay works out. So be sure to go check them out over at prizepicks.com. Use promo code DAWGS for up to $100 matched on your first deposit, and give it your best shot.
Yeah, I got wedding funds. I'm saving. That's my prize picks.
Yeah, 529 plan or something for
right,
for
Jake.
the youngest.
Keep us rolling along.
529 plan for the youngest. All right, so here we go. Carson Beck going back to Jacksonville. How's he going to handle it, Rusty?
So far, he's handled everything. I mean, looks really calm. He's had some moments where he's been. I haven't really looked at Carson Beck and say this kid's rattled. Now he's missed some throws. But I haven't looked at him in the eye and go, man, he's got quick feet. He's not, he looks puzzled. I haven't seen that yet. I think he's been very poised. You hear what Kirby Smart talks about, his emotions and composure a lot with him. And this game, naturally, man, you're going back to Jacksonville. There's no telling how many people ticket requests and things he's dealing with. And you can bet that Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo and those guys have talked to him about that. I know you're going home. I know this is a big game for you, and you don't have to do anything extra. There's no difference in playing in Sanford Stadium than playing down there. You've got to execute to win this football game. So I don't think once they get down there, I bet last week he probably dealt with some stuff he hasn't dealt with, just because, listen, people want tickets. People trying to see your family. It is what it is, man. You got, it's easy for somebody to say, tune that out. Well, man, you got a bunch of dudes you went to high school with that you're boys of, and they're extremely proud of you. And you guys are trying to get tickets, and he's trying to do this and do that. And I don't know if you know, but, NCAA rules, you can only get 4 tickets from the university per player. And you can borrow them from your teammates and stuff. But so there's a lot probably on him, but I would imagine at some point last week, Carson Beck shut that thing off and said, look, man, I got to focus on this game. And you really just want him to be able to play and let somebody else handle all that. So might be a little bit of nerves at first, but I don't expect anything is going to linger in this game and cause him any issues going home, because you want to walk out of that stadium definitely taking a W and getting back on the plane and getting ready for Missouri.
Listen, I would never, under any circumstances, try to say that he's like better than these players that I'm about to mention, okay? But I've watched Shedeur Sanders and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix. Not Bo Nix as much, but I've watched those guys kind of play large portions of games poorly or average, right? I haven't seen Carson Beck do that. Now, listen, I've seen him play poorly for stretches. I've seen a couple of drives here, maybe a quarter there. I've seen a couple of bad throws like you're talking about. Every single game, though, I feel like he's been able to find it for a period of time. And most of the time, when he finds it, he doesn't let it go. He found it against Vanderbilt, and it kind of got away from him a little later in the game with that pick. But otherwise, I've been really impressed with his ability to kind of stay with it, stick to it, find your groove, settle down, settle in, and get it going. And listen, Georgia, he was part of it, but Georgia dug itself a hole on the road against Auburn, 2 of them. Georgia came back from both of them. And it was a large, listen, Brock Bowers was a big part of that, but so was Carson Beck. And, I tend to agree with you, Rusty. Listen, he may start slow. There may be a point in time where you're thinking he's not playing that great. But I do at this point through 7 games kind of have every reason to think, Palmer, that he's going to get it figured out at one point or another.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. And, I was talking with somebody this week, talking about Carson Beck and that it's been a little bit of a roller coaster with him, but that's the kind of roller coaster of performance that you expect from a first-year starter. I think people took for granted the consistency that Stetson Bennett played with, and that took time. I mean, that 2021 season was not consistent. 2020 was certainly not consistent. But with experience came that composure. I think Carson has shown that composure. I mean, this photo's from the Auburn game. Certainly showed it there, and for as opportunities, had to get rattled have come around, he has done his best to kind of stay even keeled. And, again, without Brock Bowers, it's an entirely different ball game. He's going to have to find new safety blanket, new go-to guy. When you're, when and if you're down in this game, you're going to have to find somebody else to throw the ball to than 19. But Carson Beck has handled the first half of this season incredibly well. And I know that he's motivated to come out for this one in Jacksonville. Just talking to a couple of different players, I'll have a story here later this week on Carson's homecoming game. But, they said, hey, he has made it known, he wants to play important. He wants to play well, but this isn't about him. This is about the team and everybody coming out of this game with a W. As much as Carson Beck wants to lead Georgia to a victory, it is going to take an overall team effort to do so. I don't think that the homecoming for him is going to be too big of a stage, because if handling himself in Auburn, wasn't too big of a stage, I don't think that this game is going to be. And, there was some talk earlier this week about the first-time starters for Georgia in this game and their record. And to me, that doesn't matter in this one because Georgia's, got a first-time starter and Florida has a first-time starter. Neither of these guys have experienced this game, and Georgia has all the talent around the quarterback to help them out.
Yeah, and another thing I'll point to here with Georgia and how they do things, right? They want an intelligent, high processing, good football player driving the bus, but they don't really. This thing's not all on one guy's shoulders, and that's one of the reasons why Georgia has been successful. Is yes, Stetson and now Carson kind of run the offense, and they're at the wheel, but there are a lot of other components that can kind of make that thing go. And Georgia does a really good job with that, and they find a way to kind of play their best ball whenever it's needed. And I'm really interested to see if Saturday is the way to kick that off going down the stretch. Speaking of kind of being on the right side of things and kind of getting the ball rolling, where they play a little round ball and they bounce it on the hardwood. Georgia is doing a lot of things right now. Wrote an article today after Georgia landed 5-star plus prospect Asa Newell. Talked to a few Athens area folks about him that have known him since he was a kid, and talk about just kind of how special of a person he is and how special of an athlete he is. 6'9", 205 pounds. Monteverde Academy out in Chicago, but grew up in Athens. He chose Georgia over a really strong looking list of schools, Texas, several others. I mean,
Bama, Gonzaga.
Yeah, Bama, Gonzaga. I mean, man, listen, this is massive. It's the first 5-star Georgia's gotten since Anthony Edwards, and this one feels so much different. This one doesn't feel like a Band-Aid, especially when you look with what Georgia did in last class when they brought in five transfers, 4 prospects, 3 of those are 4-star guys. And oh, wait, Georgia might not be done yet. Darian Reed is going to decide later on this week, too. Georgia has a RPM lead for him. Not sure how that's going to go. Things can change 10 times between now and then. But, Palmer, you're the basketball guy. Give me a quick, kind of deal on this. You cover more basketball. How big of a deal is this for Georgia basketball, and how soon can it be a big deal for them with him being such an elite prospect?
Yeah, this was one that with the amount of time and effort that Georgia put into recruiting Asa, they really couldn't have afforded to miss on him. And so to get him on board, I think people felt pretty good about Georgia's chances to land him all along. But to go from, start to finish and keep off the likes of Alabama and Gonzaga and Texas, his 3 other finalists, to hold them off was huge. And like we said, I think it's got an opportunity to, show up. The help of this, it could show up even, quicker than expected before he gets on campus, because, just talking to, talked with, a couple of people about this and Jamie Shaw, talked to him today and have a great video on our YouTube page with him breaking down Asa's commitment. Good players like to play with good players. We all know that. We see that on the football side of things, and you certainly see it on the basketball side of things. And I think that, one really good player can make an impact. I think that 2 or 3 really good players can make a even bigger impact because, look, we all saw the way that the Anthony Edwards experience worked out. He had his highs, he had his lows, and Georgia certainly was put on a national radar because of having a player like him. They will be put on a national radar because of having a player like Asa Newell, a top 10 player according to On3, a top 15 player according to the industry ranking, 5-star plus. So that means he's 5-star across all 4 recruiting rankings. To bring in him and potentially Darian Reed and potentially Connie Roots, another player, both of them top 30 players that Georgia holds a RPM advantage for, to bring in those guys on top of the guys that they brought in this past class, because, obviously the transfer portal giveth and taketh. But, if Georgia can hold on to the guys that they signed this past class, Silas Demery, Blue Kane, Dylan James, those and add in Mari Jordan as well. All 4 of them had at least one ranking service had them as a top 100 player. That is a really, really good class. I think that this team can be solid, but I think that the future for Georgia basketball can be even better than what this year could be.
And Rusty, we've seen some lean times as far as Georgia talent on the basketball court goes. I mean, there was a time when it was Sundiata Gaines, and that was it.
Carlos, I've been through Terrell Bell, Carlos Strong, and all that crew. I guess the last big game that I saw in Athens was Georgia, Kentucky, when Kentucky was number 1 with Cousins and all those guys.
Yeah.
And that night, and Georgia almost
14.
Yeah, Georgia almost beat them that night. It was a Tuesday night game.
That was the Travis Leslie dunk over to Marcus
Oh
Cousins.
my Lord, Travis
Yeah.
Leslie. But that was. I mean, to be honest, that really for me is like, you think about that, dude. It was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
That was one of the biggest games.
More than that. That was like 2000. I think that was 2008.
Marcus Cousins was drafted in 2010, so that would have been, and he was a one and done.
Yeah, they were number one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that would have been 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
I took Kaylee on a school night, let her sleep on the way home on Tuesday night, and we went over and watched that game. But it was electric atmosphere, and it was crazy. And Georgia lost the game right at the end. But listen, we're not saying Georgia's a basketball school, but if you give people something to be excited about, it can turn a heartbeat. And then,
look, the baseball program's doing it too. I mean, picking up a huge commitment the last couple of weeks, but a kid that Rusty's plenty familiar with in Bryce Clavon, out of Kell committing on Sunday.
You want to know what two teams have the best chance for national championship at the University of Georgia? It's football and softball. And I can talk about that because they got everybody back, and they went out and got about 4 or 5 players. They're all seniors. Every starter's back, and we need to get them on one night. But the softball team in the spring, they're trying to win it all. They're trying to win the national championship, and they got everybody back. I think their top 11 players are back.
Wow.
Off of a super regional appearance.
Then they went and got 4 in the transfer with the ACC Freshman of the Year and all this stuff. So they're not playing around. They're trying to win that thing this year. So there's some stuff to look forward to as we get into basketball and spring sports.
All right, Palmer, get some rest, buddy. You got a lot to go on. You got a lot going on after this football season, but I'll
tell you this right now. Y'all can do all the basketball and y'all can go all this, but if that team goes to Oklahoma City, I'll handle it. I'll let one of y'all.
Oh, there we go. Hey, listen, I ain't lost nothing in Oklahoma City. You ain't got to worry about me going out there. Let's chop some wood. Let's chop some wood real quick and before we cut these folks loose and let them get back to their day. Before I do that, listen, we haven't talked about this much on the show, but I'd want to let everybody know that every single Saturday morning, unless it's a noon kick, then we do it on Friday night. We got a pregame show, 10, 15, 20 minutes. They've been all the varying links. It's kind of the latest and the update. It'll be on our YouTube channel. It will be, it'll be a, live premiere. Again, this Sunday, this week, it'll be Saturday morning. It'll be that way next week, 7 a.m. Check it out. Make sure you check the replay if you don't get it as it comes out. But our DawgsHQ pregame show is on every single Saturday, and we'd love to have you join. And I think we may have a sponsor coming up for it that is going to partner up with us, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But listen, definitely check that out. All right, hope I bought some time for you guys to think about chopping wood in case your minds were blank. Palmer, what you got?
Yeah, we said we were going to talk about it a little bit, the Michigan sign stealing. So I will talk about how Kirby weighed in on it, how Georgia players weighed in on it. And, it's certainly the story of college football right now. And, interesting to see. Obviously, Georgia has been tied into it with Michigan playing the Bulldogs back in 2021 for the Orange Bowl in the college football playoff semifinals. That one went Georgia's way, to say the least. But then also the Wolverines have been keeping an eye on the Bulldogs over the last couple of years. The screenshots going around and reports that, Michigan had eyes on Georgia and Ohio State at that Peach Bowl, and that, there's been a couple of games that they've targeted this year as Georgia as a potential threat to the Wolverines. Look, to me, that says a couple of things. Obviously it says that, there's a situation happening up in Ann Arbor, and we'll see how that plays out. But to me, it says Georgia is a team that is on everyone's minds. And if you needed any more proof of that, coming out of the summer when we first heard about the beat Georgia period that they have up in Ann Arbor, this whole, sign stealing scandal has been another reminder that the Bulldogs are certainly on everyone's mind. It's in college football, and, a team that, everyone knows that they've got to go through right now. because they're the 2-time defending champs and, is currently sitting pretty at number 1 in the rankings. We'll see what it looks like next week with the college football playoff rankings coming out on Tuesday. If Georgia's going to be number 1 there, maybe Michigan has a case. Maybe they get docked because of this whole scandal that's going on. But certainly has been a crazy crazy couple of days and a week here with different reports and message board rumors and all the above, just with this Michigan sign stealing stuff. So I'll chop wood about the Georgia ties into that with the matchup between Georgia and Michigan back in 2021.
Georgia will not be number 1 in the college football playoff committee rankings. And all of those Georgia hardos out there on our page and everything talking about, well, we don't deserve to be number 1. Okay, you'll get a chance to thump your chest for a little bit. All right, so they will not be number 1, I promise. What you got, Rusty? I'll
chop wood. I'm gonna chop splinter for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Thank you for taking care of that BS.
Go Snakes.
Hey, go up there and get 2, baby, in Philly. And the look on those guys, I watched the highlights because I was done with baseball, but I did watch the highlights and look on those people's faces. And I was done, but the look on those people in the 9th inning, priceless. So I want to chop wood for all the people. And I'm not trying to be kind of two-faced about it. I think Georgia should go home and home with Florida. I just do. But I will say this. I want to chop wood for everybody that's been going to that game for 30, 40 years, that's already down there, that's in St. Simons, that's in, Amelia Island, that's in Jacksonville already. It kind of hit me on my Facebook feed, on my personal Facebook feed on Monday. 2 people that I'm friends with, they were there Monday. Like, it was a whole week of doing this. So, look, I'm no stranger to knowing tradition and how awesome that game is. I also understand the importance of recruiting and wanting to keep Georgia home games so we can have some excitement up here too. So, but I will chop wood definitely for everyone that's been going, not only this time, who's been going for 30, 40 years, make a weekend out of it, week out of it. That's just something special, and hope everybody's safe travels. My daughter's making her first game this weekend, and she's excited about it. One of my good buddies in Atlanta radio, Steak Shapiro, his daughter is 5 of them are heading down for their first Georgia-Florida game. And so it's starting traditions, and that's what it's about for these people and these young people to experience it, and hope they stay safe. And just chop wood, man, everybody that's going and have fun this weekend.
I got a buddy that's 39, just a few months younger than me. He's going to be headed down for the first time on Friday night. He's got 2 young boys, and he can't bust away until the last minute. But we'll be meeting up with him. We'll see him down there. Me and Palmer will. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun trip, man. I've been going for a long time, and it is a fun trip. I
hate these people you got to have the landing once. You know what I mean? You got to have it. You know what I mean? That's gone. And I was there in 97, and then those Georgia fans couldn't get to the landing fast enough. And I mean, they showed up. If you want to talk about a bunch of Ric Flair walk-ins, strutting, all those people needed was some smoke, because they were ready to walk up into that building and get with those Florida fans. But I hate that that's gone. I understand the world is business, but I hate that everybody didn't get to experience that Jacksonville landing at least one time on a Friday night when those Georgia and Florida fans were in there together and they have live bands and stuff. It was pretty special.
Dude, one time there was this giant man who went and got a bunch of beers in the plastic cups at the landing. We were all just packed in there, and he had been standing next to us kind of all night, and he comes back over and he's starting to hand out the beers, and I see him and his crew doesn't. So I just kind of stick my head down and reach, thinking maybe he'll give me, man, he handed me 4 without even thinking about it. And
that's a great comment. You peaked right then, Jake.
It was so chaotic that he didn't even know that I had taken them from him. Like, he didn't even know who he had given them to be like, who did I hand those beers to? I heard him saying it, and I was just over here just kind of sheltering him. I mean, y'all, he would have beat the life out of me. This guy was probably 6'7", 6'6", 260 pounds. I mean, he was a man. And one of the most dangerous things I've ever done, but I had some liquid courage as well. I'm going to chop wood on those of you that I think folks are a little bit gullible these days, because I'm telling you right now, if you think that Deion Sanders and Matt Rule and Kirby Smart really, truly don't have a problem with the Michigan thing, if it went down the way folks are saying it does, I've got some oceanfront property for you in Iowa. They absolutely have a problem with it, guys. And I'm not telling you that as in, hey, Jake thinks they do. All right, listen, I'm an idiot most of the time. I don't know a whole lot, but I do know for a fact that Matt Rule and Kirby Smart and Deion Sanders are under their breath saying these, they are not happy with it, period.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Jake. Let me raise my hand.
Yeah.
How many teams potentially now change their signs because weekly? Like
absolutely.
How many go? And there's always that one coach going, man, they've been stealing our signals. They've been stealing our signals.
We're headed towards the headsets and
hopefully, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope we're headed to an NFL style communication system. I think that's very smart. I
don't understand the wristbands. Like where are those? Call the play with that.
Yeah, I think what ends up
you can change the card. You can change the card.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think ultimately, you get to a certain point in the game when you can't do that. And there are certain sections of certain games where you're trying to get the edge, maybe not the whole thing.
You change the half.
But ultimately, man, I mean, listen, I've always heard that Georgia changes their signals and the way they send stuff in and the wristband stuff, like you mentioned, Rusty. They do that kind of regularly. Funny thing is, there's another team that Georgia's played over these past 2 years that I know that Georgia was way more worried about Michigan about stealing their signals, and Georgia was concerned about that. All right, I know for a fact they were. So, guys, let's just don't. I mean, all those fans out there and Michigan fans, you too. I know you're not watching, but you're too smart for that. You read a lot of stuff because Michigan's better than everything. But they have a problem with it. 100%, they have a problem with it, and they do not want you stealing their signals, and they do not want you having that competitive edge. They're playing it cool, man. I mean, they're like that dude that just got broke up with in high school. They're like,
it ain't hurt. Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Ride home, listen to REO Speedwagon crying. Yeah.
Kirby, if you don't think Kirby, talked Mary Beth's ear off about that last night,
paranoid as hell. The coaches are paranoid as hell.
Yes, 100%.
They are the most paranoid. I don't care who it is. It's just one of those deals, and I'll mention one thing on that. No, it is illegal to go scout teams in person as an employee. I saw people say it's not. It is illegal. They changed that rule in the 90s. It is illegal. It's crazy to me how this thing is unpacking. Like, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but hey, shout out to VolQuest, our Tennessee site. I mean, the guy. I mean, their poster there. He did the work for the NCAA, and. Brent Hubbs.
He had it in December and January of last year.
December 1st, 2022. So the guys from Nashville, Palmer, you don't know him, do you?
No, I haven't heard anything about it.
He wishes he did because he likes to do screen name. Arnie Palmy alert.
The Connor Stallions guy, right? He is from Nashville, correct? That's what I read. I thought he was from Nashville or saying something because he went to the Vandy game and it got canceled or whatever. And
he went to NBA. Palmer would know him.
Oh, no.
But anyway, that's the depth and the intent to cheat is what's going to get this thing. And they're going to paper trail this all the way back up, and they're going to try to see how high it goes if it gets anywhere near Jim Harbaugh. But him standing on the sidelines next to coordinators as a entry level employee, you're talking about a guy that joined the staff in January of 2022, and this guy is standing next to your coordinators. We'll see how it's crazy how this thing is unpacked.
With the card, did you see the card with the arm motions and everything?
Yeah,
I mean, like they had it. And there was a lot of effort went into it.
The 500-page Michigan manifesto, that's odd.
I'll say this, and I can't answer.
I'm worried about this man. I'm worried about Connor Stallions not having a job. Okay, somebody's going to need to hire this guy and get him back being busy, or I'm worried about his mental health.
Does Does Dana Point Guna have a Georgia manifesto?
He probably does. And all it talks about is pass rush and speed.
I'll say this. I'll say this, and I can answer for, I would say, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and Sam Pittman, any of these guys. If you're going to stand next to my coordinators, I'm going to know what the hell you're standing next to our coordinators for.
Yeah.
You're not standing next to Glenn Schumann and you're not standing next to Mike Bobo without knowing what the hell you're actually standing there as a 1-year employee. That's going to be, there's so many layers to this thing. So it's unprecedented.
And ultimately Jim Harbaugh is supposed to know if he doesn't. You know, and that's not me saying that. That's the NCAA saying that.
Or
like
something. Jim Harbaugh's got to look at the NCAA and say, I don't know why that guy's been following my coordinators for 2 years. Why he's standing next to my coordinator for 2 years.
And if he doesn't know, he's still supposed to. That's the way the NCAA looks at it.
How many Ohio State fans? And I'm asking y'all, so don't fall out laughing. How many Ohio State fans have went back on YouTube and watched that Ohio State-Michigan game in the last 3 days? I mean, they have framed it, fast forward it, stopped. They have looked for anything on that TV view. I would love to have the all 22 on that.
I would love to sit in on a bunch of like 55 to 7-year-old retiree Buckeye fans in their coffee spot tomorrow morning. Or this morning or the morning before that, and just hear. Do you understand how out of control this thing has gotten? Probably in those, like there's truth, and then there's what they're talking about, which they've got it magnified up. They know a guy, and their uncle's, their cousin's brother was part of it, and they spent over $20 million trying to beat Ohio State over the last 3 or 4 years. It's gotten completely out of hand. I would love to be a fly on the wall.
I tell you what. The game days at Ohio State, Michigan, is going to be some of the best signs in the history of all time, man. I mean, it's at Michigan though this year, isn't it? Yeah, it's at Michigan, so it's not going to be. But boy, game day and the signs this week they'll be next level.
Yeah, they're gonna get hyped before that. All right, folks, listen. Next time we see you, will be our pregame show Saturday morning, 7:00. Make sure you join us. Come on over to the site, okay? Come on over to the site. Check us out. 6 months for free, basically, when you sign up for a year-long membership at DawgsHQ. You get 50% off of a year-long membership. That gets you through all the way through to this point next year. Through almost to another early, gets you through early signing period, almost to another one, a big summer of recruiting, all sorts of scoops, spring practice, transfer portal, everything. And you can get it at half price. Or if you're just a little timid about it, 1 month for $1. All right. We need you.
Are we doing this show Sundays and Wednesdays at 8 now?
Yep, Sunday. That's a good call, Rusty. Sundays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern for the Georgia show. We moved it up 30 minutes, and we hope to see y'all very soon. All right, this has been the Georgia show, and we will catch you guys again real soon.